We certainly see what's been able to happen here. Cameron has been a strong player, one of the longer tenured players here, as well as Kenshin. Also, Kenshin, Grandpa Kenshin, as I call him lovingly, has been in this SCL since the inception. A lot of good players on this Elevate roster. A lot of long-time dudes. Eanix, kind of the opposite. Brand new. Almost all 5 of them are rookies, I think, for this year.
Yeah, I think they are all rookies, and all of them have performed not like rookies, though. They played really well.
Just a fantastic journey throughout the season.
I'm pretty sure that Dinosaur and Osric have been around the scene for a little bit, actually. Just never really come into the light because they weren't actually finding a whole lot of success. But this powerhouse roster from EU is certainly something to be feared. And that immediate Circuit lock-in pick, I am question marks everywhere. Osric on Circuit, I can only imagine how much control he's actually looking to attain.
Well, the bands come out. We've got the Osiris, the Kakulin, the Xingqian, and what's that hunter's name, Bobby?
Coast?
No, the god.
Oh, Amazon Cobb.
No, the band one.
What? Oh, the Hui.
How does he say it, though?
Me?
Yeah, how does Ho Yi say it?
Ho Yi.
There you go. Not bad.
I had no idea. I thought you were talking about AMC.
Well, AMC. He'll be the hunter on Elevate next to Kabrakan. The tier again. Forget about Rajan. Don't care. Tier is what destroyed Eanix's opposition in the hands of Predators. I mean, he went nuts.
I think Predators is trying to become Variety's protege on the console scene because he's already had a pretty outstanding performance on this god. It's very understandable why he would try to pick it here again, because if Eanix are able to 2-0 Elevate, that's going to have some massive implications for later on. And it's just the fact that they're going to be able to take Worlds.
Big stuff. The tier, I mean, I interviewed Predators after they won, and he was just straight up, this is my best character. I pick it when I need to win. Eanix are feeling the pressure right here. Ares banned out by Elevate. A little bit of afraid that RDO is going to be crippled out.
I'm actually really liking that Ares ban away because there's already a decent amount of control between the tier and Circuit for Eanix, so they're definitely just looking for more of the frontlining factor, maybe a couple of throwaways. I don't really see Amir being an option because Kabrakan and RDO are excellent at shutting him down, but that Neath ban away, very important because Habwa is still on the table as well.
The Ares also in Dinosaur's wheelhouse fantastically. And the Sylvanas band. So Elevate looking directly at Dinosaur. 1, 2, 3 support selections banned out if you count Xingqian. Inbound, where, as the Guardian pool gets smaller and smaller through picks and bans, where would you start to look?
Against the comp that Elevate's brought, they're going to have a really dive-heavy comp with the Kabrakan, and I feel like RDO is going to be in the solo lane, so that's going to be a diving god also. So a real peel-heavy god would be nice. Geb, Sobek would be nice also. That's probably what I'd look for first.
I think my only concern with opting for a Geb is that there's just a little bit too much burst potential from Elevate as is to really punish him during those earlier stages where he's not as tanky and really able to use those shields to save his own life.
Well, the Ganesh pick going to come out for Elevate, and I'm with you. I want to see Dinosaur on the Sobek. I think heavy peel is what Eanix is gonna really value here. 2 more selections. We know where everybody on their draft is going. Circuit, jungle, tier, solo, Raijin mid. So we're looking for a dual lane.
And now that you have the 3 Guardians locked in from Elevate, you know that's going to be a Hunter mid. With these last 2 picks, I want to see something that Eanix can bring out that can stop this Hunter mid and then 3 Guardians.
Which is why I think we see the Xingqian early. Elevate kind of knew where they were going to go with this. I'm using Cobb. Even if it winds up being a soul insteed of a traditional hunter, it might be interesting. But with the 3 Guardians, as you said, magical. Elevate likely to lean there. Peel heavy. Kumba Karna.
I love this god. Kumba is one of my favorite supports. He is a little weak right now, but with that buff to his ult on the 75-second cooldown, he's got a lot of peel. And if you do hit them out of the mez, both hunters will have less attack speed, which is also a really good pick.
And Uller, of course, was just another heavily anticipated pick. Vaporish goes, he's already gotten a pentakill 1 time on this god. Can't wait to see him run it back again. Artemis, I'm expecting to go into the dual lane for Elevate as well instead of the AMC, because not only is Artemis going to be able to have a little bit of safer poke and clear against that Uller, but CC immune ult, really important against a god that can dive you pretty hard.
This is a big litmus test for Eanix. This is their draft. These are the characters this team likes. 1 word, Eanix or Elevate.
I really like Eanix draft. and I'm really not a fan of the triple Guardian double Hunter. I'm going to have to go with Eanix.
How about you?
I feel like Eanix might take this one.
You know what? They were the underdogs once, but right now, they just might be the top dog. We've got 2 dogs on deck, and it's our casters. It's Finch, and it's Tolly.
Thank you, Tom. I don't know if we're dogs over here, but I mean, I want to support my team, so thank you, Tom. We're the 2 dogs over here.
I mean, we're seeing Eanix and Elevate, the 2 underdogs actually of this group, and Eanix are still in a position here to qualify for Worlds. I like their composition. I feel like they can easily get to the back line and just really exploit these 2 hunters that don't have natural escapes.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of this here, the 2 hunter composition. We get ready to go into the game here with Eanix going against Elevate, so how well you can shut that down is important. What's also been important is one of these Guardians needs to be very good at protecting that back line, and I mean, it feels like they kind of have that here for me.
For Ganesh, you got the Kabrakan that wants to be aggressive. You're really relying on Kenshin to save that backline, really wanting to use that silence duration, you know, get off those Dharmic pillars to make it more mindful about Eanix. Is like, all right, if I go in here, I'm going to take a lot of damage. I'm going to get slowed. If I don't have my relics, I could be screwed.
So that puts a lot of pressure here then onto Osric. How well is he going to be able to get back there? Because that Ohm really does interrupt a lot of what Serket wants to do, Tolly.
Eanix, anticipating that probable tactic in the team fights, they opted for 2 early sprints at level 1.
Yeah, they wanted to be able to try and get away from some of those slows, maybe try and make it a little bit easier to get back there too. Other than that, though, lots of purifications for those carries. Want to be able to get away from all the control that these Guardians are going to be bringing.
I really love seeing the Samusin Cobb in middle here. It's very difficult to contest the true lane power that he brings to the table, and that's exactly what Elevate are trying to avoid, or Elevate are trying to do, rather. They're just collapsing around this solo side jungle, not going to look for the invade quite yet. Instead, going for the elementals first, and then having the solo lane side invade instead.
Yeah, they let Vaporage Coast over there alone in that lane up against Cameron. And then over here in the dual lane, Neximus and Kenshin already trying to put a little bit of pressure on the Predators, but he's got Osric backing him up over here in the lane with him. They weren't quite able to get the blue, but looks like they did take the enemy's speed.
And it's a good counter for a counter there, knowing that they were about to get invaded on. They get the still speed buff for themselves, but look at this. Now, finally, they're going to pick it up for themselves. Osric with the speed buff and sees that the elementals are not available, but Elevate getting the better end of it in terms of the neutral camps thus far.
Yeah, it looks like in the end those buffs over here, at least on this side, they end up trading, but as you said, that neutral farm looks like it's going in their favor. Osric looking to loop around the back end, trying to get that madness off. It's actually Predators who takes way more poke than he was looking for. Gonna need to try and get that healed back up when those minions get to him.
That's the problem with tier early game. Your heal is just not that viable in terms of staying against the early pressure, and surprisingly, to see him go for this early sprint. Normally tiers, they go for either the blink for the easy engages or shell just to survive a lot of these early 2v2 skirmishes.
And that is going to limit a little bit of the way that Predators can get to the back line. We talked about that, so important. Blink is something that usually can get back there and isolate someone from the other team. Here in that mid lane, though, Dinosaur sticking around, trying to help out a little bit with some of the clear for 50-meter fly to make sure that he's protected there in mid.
Something that he's been doing throughout his whole entire career, just rotating in that mid lane, making sure his mid laner is in a nice, comfortable position, whether he's playing the Hunter or the Raijin there. And that's something that 50-meter fly has been known to do. Play a lot of these bursty mid mages that have a long-distance artillery shots.
And it makes sense, too. I mean, let Vaporage Coast, go over there in the dual lane and get plenty of solo farm. He's shown that when you let him get, especially on this Uller pick, he can go off.
Day 1, game number 2, I think it was against Obey Alliance, where the Penta Kid came into action, playing the same god that he did before, the God of the Hunt. So this is a good opportunity here. And speaking of God of the Hunt, across the pond, Cameron playing that Artemis.
Yeah, that's something that's got to be kind of in the back of the players' minds here. They know this Vapor's Coast can go off. He's shown to here at this land, so you got to make sure you're a little bit more mindful of it. Already a little bit out in front of Cameron here, who only just ticked over to level 5 just now. So, well, actually about a full level ahead, really. So that's rather significant.
Looking at the builds here, and we're seeing actually 3 Bumma's masks on both sides. They really want to be able to control some of these early jungle camps and get the sustain that they really need during every little invade. We're going to see some buffs respawn here in 30 to 45 seconds, and I'm expecting some of the action to start rotating to the right side of the map.
And I know you're saying we're expecting some of this action here. I mean, taking a look at what's available for him, who do you think is going to be the one starting? Do you think maybe Osric or maybe Dr. L? Where do you think is going to be like the sort of the catalyst for getting started?
It depends where Mythic is positioned for Elevate, I think, is where's the action going to be. I think if anyone's going to initiate, it's going to be Elevate. You're relying on Amuzenkov to invade. And once he clears the mid-wave, that's the telltale sign of what's about to happen. Instead, they're going to position themselves around those right side mid-harpies immediately after Dr. L gets his own speed, but Eanix going to try to look for a sneaky red buff invade.
Yeah, even with Dinosaur over here in duo, Kenshin is okay with sticking over here on the solo jungle. Dr. L blinking over the wall, puts the damage onto Osric, and now they're going to be forced to back up, give up that speed buff, as they do have that hog there to help him secure it.
Predator's couldn't really do anything about it unless he decided to use that Lawbringer, but it's Vapor's Coast jumping in.
He goes in aggressively. Tusky comes out to keep him alive for the moment. Dinosaur gets stunned underneath the tower, and he ends up actually getting the sleeping time passive triggered. Cameron now, no way to slow him down. Just going to try and take those last talks, and he does. He gets first blood in the Dinosaur.
And Mythic is going to chase his down because Vapor's Coast jump is not available, using the beats preemptively, but here comes the Cabrakan ult.
And then they locked him down. Mythic with the rotation gets the second kill in favor of Elevate. The two hunters already off to a pretty good start to me, Toli.
Elevate, this is the team that we've been known to see perform in the online portion. Finding the split against Strictly Business is no easy task, and Elevate coming out strong here in game number 1. 5 minutes in, already getting 2 kills.
And every single kill, every moment here is so important for Eanix, Toli. They really, really got to get both games here. Sitting at 2 points right now, 3 just will not cut it for them.
That's true, and if they actually even do get those 2 points, they're going to be at 5 tied with Strictly Business. It's going to be an interesting situation considering that I think that they split, so that would be another tiebreaker in order to determine seeding heading into HRX.
Yeah, so that means we'd get plenty more action then, or possibly we'd get some more action as a result of that. We'll just have to see if Eanix can possibly make it happen, Toli, if they really can pull it off. But right now, Elevate doing everything they can to try and slow them down. Predators boxing out over here with Neximus, who's getting a bit of an upper hand here. I know sometimes early RDO can struggle about when in this solo lane. Does RDO start to turn it on?
You say boxing fight, I'm looking at more of like a little pillow slumber fight more than anything else. You know, between 2 teenage girls. They're both going to be able to sustain as much as they really want. Predator's taking 2 shots for nothing there, honestly, but his mana is still topped off. He uses a proc of his health chalice, so he's going to be in a good spot. And now Tier, that struggled in the early game because he didn't have the sustain available, sitting at level 7, has 2 points in that cleave, does a lot of damage, does a lot of healing.
And Elevate have really committed to this solo jungle side of the map, Totally. They've got some wards pushed down here at the bottom end to see when they're rotating over to the speed and blue. One of them just fell off too, so this is the chance where Eanix actually, whether or not they know, have a chance where there's limited vision here for Elevate, but Elevate have everyone rotating over to get these elementals.
And Eanix, though, with a good ward just right under that Fire Giant pit, definitely spotted out those 4 Elevate members, really respecting that. Going to just concede it for the moment. You know, it spawns every minute and 40 seconds. If you're not there in time, it's not the end of the world. You're giving up a decent amount of gold, but it's better than giving up your life.
Predator's down to below half health. Dharmic Pillar's actually coming out too. Forces him to use his own ultimate just to try and get away. Trying to get the root onto Osric. Set up perhaps a little bit of lockdown from Kenshin, but Osric's going to be okay for the moment. Continuing to run away is Serket.
Dr. L still has his blink available if he wants to engage, but he's left alone because the rest of his team going to invade the blue buff. Neximus going to pick that one up, and Elevate have been looking so clean so far between the invades, the 2 early kills, and that's a huge kill because that first blood went to Cameron, and Artemis that gets left unchecked and gets a little bit of an early gold boost is so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, both of these hunters on the side of Elevate, the Amuzenkov and the Artemis, you really don't want to let them get to that late game point when they really come online. They start shredding at a really high level. So it's scary for Eanix if this game does end up going on late, Totally, or at least it certainly looks that way.
And considering the way Eanix played it around the purple buff from Elevate, it seems that there was some miscommunication because Vapor's Coast went back in after it was pretty clear that Dinosaur was going to die. I think that he wanted to bait out his passive a little bit and maybe find a return kill on Cameron.
Instead, it's Dinosaur who gets the two-man mez. I believe Mythic actually uses the beads to try and cleanse it and then misses the stinger. So a lot of cooldowns Dinosaur was able to force out basically for free.
That's a very nice defensive play that just worked out offensively. So now with that 150-second defensive relic on cooldown, it's going to be an easy target for Eanix to exploit this Musin Cobb that's sitting at no mana in mid.
Yeah, likely because of that, he's not going to be looking to do much more here for the next few moments. Going to back off and look to back here soon, and that's exactly what he's doing. Head back to base, get farmed up. Again, though, a lot's been invested into Vision this game. In fact, there's been a couple games where we haven't seen a whole lot of wards here, but these two teams recognize how important is lots put into that Vision and trying to make sure they know where the other team's going and finding an area where they can set something up.
It's all about the vision control. You spot out the rotations from happening. Now you can make a decision if you want to play aggressively or have to fall back defensively. And both of these teams been doing a good job adapting to these situations. Eanix realizing that they couldn't really defend some of their buffs on the right side. So what do? They use this vision. They back off. They don't allow Elevate to control any more of the map than they already are. And they're still in a good spot farming-wise. Level-wise, they're not too far behind. There's only a 1 level deficit between 50-meter fly and Mythic. And as I say that, Mythic hits level 11.
Mythic just now turning over that level. We're approaching 10 minutes in here, and about 1,000 gold or so Elevate has up over Eanix right now to their name. Already got some vision here over the Gold Fury pit, and they're kind of lurking a little bit.
Ooh, they're feeling very frisky as Elevate. They're actually going to try to bait out Eanix, I think, in an awkward spot, or maybe even just poke out Vaporish Coast before he gets that lifesteal stacks on those Devo gloves, not getting the most optimal amount of lifesteal, but still doing a good job about just holding his own. It's very difficult to really poke out Uller because he can still clear the way from a distance.
I don't know if they know totally, but they might have been able to force that just now. Really, there wasn't anyone around. They probably just didn't have the information. We have the benefit of seeing it all, but really it looks like it was just Vaporish Coast that was in the neighborhood. Instead, Osric getting ohmed out, setting up the stun coming out from Dr. L. Almost immediately, though, the beads used to get out of that sticky situation. So once again, a bit of a win there for Elevate. Dr. L's low, though.
The ultimate from the Raijin coming out. Dinosaur now using it on the Dr. L. He comes landing down. He's trying to get away, but it's Osric forcing the issue.
Dr. L's already fallen. Dinosaur gets credit for that. Cameron, though, gets the return kill, as does Osric. The poison's going to be a problem here for him. Continue to run, Cameron. Predators pulling up Kenshin on the back end, and Vaporish Coast takes down Cameron. 4-man wipe, only giving up Osric in favor of Eanix.
Osric sacrificing his life for the greater good, just forcing out the issue in terms of spreading the poisons all across the board. Elevate, they were once in the lead, but it's Eanix bringing it back, and Predators is not done with this bear.
No, he's trying to control Neximus here, and then leaping in is Vaporish Coast, setting up his boy 50-meter fly to finish that one off. And take a look at these player cams, Tolly. He's popping off, feeling good on the Uller. Gold Fury looking good for him, too.
The adrenaline is just pumping throughout Eanix. They're able to get the first real objective in the game, this Gold Fury at the 11.5-minute mark, extending their lead now to a slight 1,000 gold lead. They were actually down about 1,500 gold, and this was a total of a 2,500 gold swing.
Yeah, absolutely. Winning that team fight in that narrow corridor worked huge for Eanix there in that team fight. You mentioned it. Osric coming up big for him in that engagement. Yes, he gives up his own life, but they have essentially get an unofficial deicide off it as they, or rather Neximus, I think, got away. But in the end, they take that Gold Fury and they take the fight.
Eanix trusted the call of Vaporish Coast there. He stunned out Dr. L. Everyone from Eanix was backing off before that Uller Axe stun connected, and that's when 50-meter fly throws out those Raijin ults through the wall, connecting onto Dr. L. Finally, Dinosaur holding onto his ultimate until the last moment, which allowed Osric to get the last hit with the last breath and then just spread the poisons every which way he wanted to.
Yeah, he came in and got a lot of good poke on a Dr. L, I believe, to get that one going, too. So he just felt confident and continued to go in. Right now, Predators, I think he's got 2 members over there in his lane, but not too worried about Neximus and Kenshin right now. He'll get them to back off just for the moment, but now Eanix are the ones with a little bit of that momentum there on their side, totally. They didn't let those 2 early kills slow them down.
Not at all, and that's going to put them in a great position heading into the mid game before the late game of Mythic, Samusin, Cobb, Cameron's Artemis truly takes into effect. If Eanix can continue teamfighting like the way they did there, they should be able to control the next objective. And with the amount of control they have between Predators on the tier, Dinosaur here on this Kumbhakarna, they can easily still win these teamfights.
Ultimate looks like it was committed there from Cameron. Vaporish Coast able to get out of that one, so he's still doing okay, but I think it was at the cost of all his relics, Tully.
Yeah, it's going to be 150 seconds. However, still, Cameron positioned himself a little bit aggressively, but with great vision from Elevate. They spot out this rotation from both Dinosaur and 50-meter Fly, going to back on out after clearing the wave. No Gold Furies to really take advantage of, because even though sometimes you don't necessarily find the kill in this little Hunter v. Hunter skirmish battle, you force out the relics, you force them to back. That's a small marginal win of golden experience denied under that tower.
A little bit of fighting here over that Portal Demon. 50-meter Fly actually goes up into the Tycho drums to push Kinson and Neximus away. Osric able to get out of there too, so it's Predators they're looking for the Rudon, not quite able to find it. Instead, gonna settle for trying to take away this Gold Fury.
Osric actually dove onto Mythic, forcing out both of his relics before that exchange even happened. That's why 50-meter Fly went to bang those drums, really hoping that he had the distance necessary to follow up from his jungler.
In the end, not quite able to finish out with any kind of kills, but as you said, those cooldowns on those relics are still going to be very important. So even though nothing gets pulled, those relics being taken is good, and I believe Dr. L even able to take away, or rather Elevate as a team took away that speed, and Dr. L the one who picked it up. Now they're pulling the Portal Demon, but Osric's rotating around the back.
From behind, but they got spotted out. Kenshin trying to lead the pack there. Mythic is going to start the slow, but getting messed. He doesn't have any beats. Osric, he's going to go in with the damage, but a great silence from Kenshin.
Yeah, this is him recognizing that Mythic didn't have them available. The Dharmic Pillars end up coming out from Kenshin, and that's not to force the back, but Predators actually jumps in with the ultimate, perhaps thinking they were going to come through the corridor.
That's true, but the sprint being used defensively, Elevate panicking a little bit, but that allows them to safely transition into their own tier 1 mid tower, avoiding any sort of fearless shenanigans.
Instead, everyone able to back on out. Couple ultimates expended there on both sides by Kenshin as well as by Predators, but in the end, Mythic about to have his very short list. So things are going to be all evened up in that department. And we even have 2 stand switchers, so really it is all evened up there totally.
Gold Fury respawning in 1 minute. A lot of these wards are starting to fade off the map. Elevate with huge amount of vision control. This whole entire game really been abusing it in the earlier portions. They had a slight misstep in this one team fight. I think that they're still in a good spot though, as long as they play around their vision and then just watch out for Osric that's been making the plays happen for his team.
Eanix choosing to go with the 2 Thorns here feels like they might be trying to go for trying to slow down these 200s, but it's Mythic who gets slowed down. Osric takes credit for that one, getting help from 50-meter Fly, slowing down that AMC in the mid lane.
That's just what happens. Circuit Ultimate is a much shorter cooldown than those beads and Aegis relics, and that's exactly what Eanix were looking to do. Osric is going to actually stop pushing out on that Portal Demon, recognizing that there's some rotations in the dual lane.
Yeah, Vaporish Coast is under a lot of pressure from Cameron over here in this left side dual lane, but Dr. L's lurking around the back end. There's still plenty of help coming out. In fact, Dr. L could be in danger of getting sandwiched here. Instead, use that extra movement speed to get away, and Vaporish Coast gets that pressure relieved.
It was good positioning from Dr. L, considering he has the blink. He can easily flank on the backside between that tier 1, tier 2 tower and look to dive under that tier 1, really trying to, because the blink forces the early jump from Vaporish Coast. After that jump gets used, what do you do as Cabragan? You just drop the wall on him, and then you have Artemis follow up.
Instead, Vaporish Coast able to get on out of there after getting some help from his teammates. Things are still basically all but evened up here. I mean, Elevate and Eanix sitting very not too far apart in gold whatsoever. Eanix, though, are out in front as far as kills are concerned, returning their focus though back to this dual lane tier 1 are Cameron, and as well as some support here from the Cabrakan. Dr. L takes a lot of poke in return. Dinosaur sends him up into the air, immediately dropping down the board to lock him up. Kenshin and Mythic are here in the back end, drops down the tectonic shift. No one gets trapped inside though.
That was a great disruption that Dinosaur did. Because Dr. L dove that tier 1 tower, it disrupted Cameron from following up from his jungler, making it so impossible for Dr. L to do anything by himself, especially with a tier 1 tower on him. them.
They're going in on an Eximus here. Tycho drums coming out, and that was even with Predators rotating in on the back end. Instead goes into the blue stance, not able to control him. That's enough for Eximus to really get out. Lawbringer over the top, doesn't quite make it. Predators dives for it. He actually does pick it up. He'll throw away his own life in return, though.
Stinger stopped him from dashing away behind that tier 1 tower. The Lawbringer didn't have the range necessary to find the last hit. The shell coming in clutch for Neximus that bought him enough time to retrieve safely under his tier 1 tower for the moment.
And totally, that's what I was talking about, the Thorns. There's 2 shells over here for Elevate, but it looks like Eanix are instead focusing on trying to shut down Mythic and Cameron.
That's not a bad idea considering just how much late game damage they're going to do, especially deterring them away from critical strike build. Cameron inside his kit has a passive that's just going to naturally have crit anyway. After each successful in-hand hit, you build a 5% crit chance passive stacking up to 3 times, and whether you want to crit or not, Cameron will indeed crit in these team fights.
And Mythic, it seems like, is all on board with that train anyway. He has the Transcendence there in his build, so really just going to be relying on his power, probably like the attack speed build that we see from him.
It's not a bad idea here going for this executioner on Cameron. That's going to set up more damage onto Mythic, that penetration shred.
Wow.
It's not a bad idea if you want to shut down the mobility of some of these backline penetrators. If you're going Poison Star, you slow their movement speed. You also slow their damage output.
And this is what Osric has been doing all game here, Totally, forcing those relics out from Mythic here in the mid lane. He's not had a moment to breathe where he has not been under duress from this Serket in the jungle.
There's usually about a 60 to 90 second cooldown difference between using your Serket ultimate, if you have cooldown reduction, and the defensive relics out of any mid-mage or hunter. And that's exactly the mindset that Osric has and every top tier jungler has.
And that's what's happening here with these with this controlling comp that Eanix has between Dinosaur here on the Kumbhakarna and between Serket on the Osric. They're forcing out these cooldowns all the time. The boar comes out right away to force Osric to turn tail and run. That is enough to keep Cameron out. And he's been standing at that tower line of Vapor's Coast all game. Dinosaur, though, uses the ult.
Now it's going to be the Lawbringer over the top. Serket poisons are going to be spread here onto Dr. L. He's trying to run away. He's using that ultimate defensively. Kenshin trying to peel with that silence for the moment, but Dinosaur going to mess him out for the moment. Needs to back off, though. He took a little bit too much damage.
This plan has worked for them perfectly every time. Force out the beads, wait out the Aegis, take down the kill on Mythic. Predators, though, is locked between 3 members. Osric jumps in, but there's not really a way for him to save the life of his solo laner. Instead, he falls to Cameron.
That silence from Kenshin just lasting so long. Predators had no time to use that heal. Osric now in a little bit of trouble, considering Neximus having that cripple field preventing Osric from using 2 of his abilities.
Cameron still has the Gold Fury pulled. Cameron takes the Gold Fury for Elevate, giving them about a 2,000 gold lead when they add their kills on top of it as well. So this game totally has been real swingy back and forth.
Oh, absolutely. I was just about to mention that, how Elevate, you know, came back into this game, or controlled the early portion of the game with the early 2 kills, and then Eanix winning a team fight very convincingly around this left side mid Harpies. But now it's Elevate with the 2nd Gold Fury of the game, first one to their name, making a name for themselves in this first game of the set.
And this Portal Demon, a good call from him. No way for Eanix to really contest this one. Everyone was just too low after the last engagement. So Elevate, they want that really probably more just for the farm than for the actual portal itself, but it gives them a chance to come back to the middle of the map and try and get back into position for some of these buffs coming up.
It's all about min-maxing your time in these competitive games, and even though you might not necessarily want to be positioned around Fire Giants specifically, you use this time to spend your gold, get your completed items, or maybe tier 2 items.
Dinosaur goes in, but immediately the Ohm shuts him down from getting the 4-man mez that he wanted. Osric and Predators were lurking around, and that's Kenshin showing up big to slow down the initiation from Dinosaur.
He's been doing it all game. Kenshin on this Ganesh is such a smart pick here, considering how combo heavy Eanix is. Yeah. Serket needs to get off the 3 stacks of the passive, and that's exactly what she's trying to do onto Neximus.
Osric goes in, immediately gets stunned. Tycho drums are going to be on cooldown. The wall comes out from Dr. O, but immediately jumping away is Vapor's Coast. Dinosaur takes a lot of damage, has to use his ult just to get away. Passive is triggered. Cameron going to be able to walk him down. Mythic gets credit for it.
Just a max range hit. That one shot from Cameron critting was so necessary to find the kill on the Kuma corner, and it's almost impossible not to get the kill here when you're playing two hunters. Once that passive is up, you just need a couple of in-hands and two hunters will successfully do so, even outside that tier 1 tower.
And that tier 1 tower did fall in favor of Elevate, and they look like they want to try and force this tier 2. It's a 5v4. They have got the advantage here. Osric jumping in onto Dr. L, looks to be the call, but takes half his health in return. He'll have to back up, but that's enough to keep the tier 2 tower alive.
He goes in, but he can't use that ultimate because Kenshin is disrupting the flow.
Yeah.
There's no beads available for Osric, so what is he doing to respond? He's building into the Mad Guy's Blessing. He's thinking about the later stages.
If they're having like a 5-on-5 fight where they're facing each other, I don't know if Osric can go in totally. He might have to wrap around the back end of these team fights.
It's very difficult to defend the siege from Elevate for that reason. Jungle fights should be easier for Osric. Considering he went Thorns and Bees, he doesn't have the blink necessary to dive that back line. A little bit of a bait from Eanix going for that Fire Giant, but Mythic showing his face has to use the beads.
That's enough to get him off of it. I believe we also saw the blink being used there from Dinosaur. He went on and was unable to find anything from that engagement, so he'll have that on about another 80-second cooldown before he can go back in again.
And with this 23 minutes into the game, a level 18 Uller can easily solo Fire Giant. You have the Axe Stance to give you some lifesteal. You have 70 stacks on your Devo Gloves. Not building into Aussie doesn't really need it compared to the way he did it, I think, against Obey Alliance, and that's something that actually helped him out in terms of boxing against worst Sun Wukong to get that lifesteal going.
Yeah, and we're talking about, you know, where these levels are coming out here. Until, I mean, even Neximus is out in front, too, over Predators. And that's something that we've seen happen in Predators. Not always be able to get that Lawbringer into the right position that he's looking for a couple times in this game. So let's see if he can catch back up and then get the value out of that ult that he's trying to get.
Lawbringer is just a telegraphed ability. You have a decent amount of time to react to it, whether you have an ability or maybe a relic to get you out of danger, shell, sprint, whatever the case is. Elevate has been doing a good job in terms of avoiding Predator's ultimate ability, and because, yet again, he went for the sprint, he doesn't have the blink, considering he went Thorn second.
Elevate are grouping up and trying to push objectives. Even without the Fire Giant, they're confident in about the 4,000 or so gold lead that they have right near that mark. But there's Predators and Dinosaur lurking around the back end. Osric and Vapor's Coast underneath the tower trying to force them back. Axe done just a little bit off the mark, and Elevate will back up for now.
Somebody has to get close, and it's going to be Dinosaur blinking in the backline, messing out 3, but instead it's going to be Dinosaur, the target.
The Boar's coming out too. Osric jumps in, but it's too late. Predators has already fallen. Osric lost nearly all of his health bar. Dharmic Pillars come out from Kenshin as well, as Elevate looks to continue to push into the tower. Eanix really cannot defend against the siege from this triple tank comp.
Look at the health from Elevate after getting that initial pick and then getting everyone from Eanix pretty low here. Dinosaur is going to have to back Elevate with a commanding 5-on-4 lead. Going to pull this Fire Giant for free, essentially.
It really looks to be that way. Neximus is zoning out 50-meter fly as well as Vaporish Coast. Now getting a little bit of help from Kenshin. Too late were the carries from Eanix. Elevate take the Fire Giant, and Toli, again, this game is so important. Eanix need both of them. They cannot afford to lose game 1 if they want to try and give themselves a position to get to Worlds.
Dr. L was just popping off there in your player cam, and yeah, you're right. Elevate can easily play spoiler here. The mentality of them as competitive players, they're not out of it. They still want to get this W and prove themselves.
They know that there's a chance for them to come out and take this one, and they still have a chance to do it. Elevate take the Gold Fury here as well, and they're not ready to give anything up to this Eanix team for free. If you got to make it, then you're going to have to earn it through us. And right now, it's looking like Eanix might not be able to do it.
No, not quite yet. Eanix need to survive this Fire Giant siege for an additional 3 more minutes. They still have tier 2 towers between middle, dual lane. They're down 8,000 gold at the 26-minute mark, which is a bit of a stretch. That's slightly dicey. That's a full tier 3 item here.
Yeah, that's rough to fight into, and you can kind of see it just with the eyeball test, man. Looking at these items on Elevate right now, they're in a good spot. Some power items finished off like Soul Reaver, Kin Size, that Wind Demon. They're going to be swinging in these team fights here now, Will Cameron and Mythic. So Eanix got to make sure that they're positioning perfectly.
Cameron and Mythic have reached their late game potential. There's level 20 combination. They have Fire Giant. They're going to be melting these towers and objectives. It's very tricky for Eanix to really get into that backline. They didn't really go for these blinks, which a lot of teams really like to do, meaning that it's so easy for Kenshin to disrupt the flow.
And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but you're right. It feels like it's because we said at the beginning, Osric, how will he be able to get to the backline and disrupt? He really has not. Kenshin has shut that down, it's felt like. And that's been the big difference in these team fights. Osric or Predators jumps in, they get blown up, and they can't get back there to him.
And especially considering he has the Shogun's Kusari, now Mythic and Cameron going to be doing more damage. Dr. L with that Soul Reaver that you were talking about. The burst damage from Elevate is so difficult for Eanix to play around.
Portal Demon taken by Elevate. They've already taken all the towers off the map for Team Eanix, so that means the 3 Phoenixes are exposed. They still have the Fire Giant for about another minute and a half, too. That's plenty of time to group up and make a siege onto one of these Phoenixes, totally. In fact, if they win the fight handily, it might even be time for them to go all the way in, depending on just how much they win by.
It's very easy to do so, you're right, because it's about a 35 to 45 second respawn timer, and these sieges are going to be very close to the home of Eanix, where they need to respawn and survive. But Dr. L, thinking about split pushing, he has the blink. It wouldn't be a bad idea for him to loop around, but instead going to regroup with his forces on the right.
Right now, Kenshin taking aggro. It's Dinosaur who jumps in and gets immediately blown up, triggering the passive right away. The auto attacks are coming in. They clean him up. Predators actually controls 3 members, but he dies for it. Elevate looking real good. Phoenix on the right-hand side already getting shredded by this double hunter comp, and it's down. They move over to the mid lane, though. They stay restrained and try and make this path a little bit easier.
Osric jumping in the back line. His ultimate was used. Shell, though, to negate a lot of that damage output. Didn't matter who he initiated with the poisons. Elevate, walk away with their second Phoenix. They're not going to go for that one on the left side, considering Dinosaur is going to be up soon. They took a little bit more damage than they probably wanted to. Only 20 more seconds remain on that Fire Giant. Gonna back on out, start positioning themselves for the second Fire Giant to close out the first game.
And you can start to feel it slipping away a little bit here for Eanix, totally. Just right now, with those 2 Phoenixes down, it looks rough. It's certainly not over yet, but this is it. This is the beginning. This is the defense that Eanix have to make if they want to keep their chances alive, and that only gets them halfway, totally.
That's true. Thus far, Elevate, you could just feel the energy. You can hear some of the whoops from a distance, actually, and just every single team fight, these console players are just so fanatic about it.
No, this Elevate squad is full of talented players who did not come out here to get rocked around, and they're going to show that they can hang around, even with Eanix, even with some of these bigger teams. Like we've seen, I mean, Eanix have looked stellar this weekend, totally, maybe to some surprise from some people, and Elevate want to show they can hang with them.
And Eanix, you know, as a European squad, we always kind of, not necessarily count out European squads against North America, but they didn't have the best resume against North American teams, and thus far been doing a good job splitting with the best of them. And you know, not the best performance from them in game number 1 here. A lot of credit to where credit is due. Elevate coming out to play their composition, they've executed it accordingly.
Yeah, every member of this team has done their job in this game, and particularly Kenshin has been such a disruptor for what Eanix have tried to do. It's set up Mythic and Cameron to look so good in this game. Dr. L with his counter initiations off of Dinosaur's blinks in have been excellent too. This Elevate squad looking real strong here in game 1. They have gone back in, reacquired that Fire Giant for all 5 members. Only 1 Phoenix is left standing over here in that dual lane side. That appears to be the call as they look to group and weaken that Titan even further.
They're going to wait for Dr. L to shove the mid lane a little bit further, trying to flood some of those fire minions closer to the Titan. Just going to wait out Cameron to shove out left lane on top of this. You know, just grabbing a casual Gold Fury as well, making sure Eanix doesn't get it if in case Elevate don't successfully siege.
And they've invested heavily here, totally, into trying to shut down the auto attack hunters with the double thorns, with the hide of the Nemean Lion. But it has not deterred Cameron. He went full crit here. He's on Wind Demon, Poison Star, Deathbringer. He's all in.
And not only that, Dinosaur going Kumakarna, you get the anti-attack speed if you break out of that Mesmerize. So Eanix all across the board knew what Elevate were doing. They tried to counter it, but weren't successful in doing so. Ozrix was just constantly disrupted by Kenshin's Ganesh.
Dr. L's in the mid lane trying to help bring in a minion wave as the rest of Elevate group up around the Tier 1 tower. Kenshin lining up, thinking about where he wants to go in and initiate here, Totally.
Dr. L shoving mid. That's exactly what you would want to do here in the Fire Giant Siege. You know, you shove out one wave where you have the fire minions, forcing someone to defend it, which is going to be 50-meter fly. Dr. L has blink. He can easily make the dive.
And he does blink right onto Vapor's Coast, forcing the beads, forcing the turn tail and run right away. Now it looks like they're trying to cut down Ozric. Ozric able to get to the back end, walling off Dinosaur, though. Up in the air with 50-meter fly with the Tycho drums to try and push him away, but the Firebird's already fallen. Cameron takes down Ozric, continuing to push in on the Dinosaur. He's gone.
Cameron taking a page from Panda Cat's book, going for the blink Artemis. He goes in, he drops to Tusky, he gets 2 kills. Mythic with a double kill, actually. It's going to be the Titan down. Elevate walk away with game number 1.
Elevate walk away with game number 1 in a